I stood frozen in the hallway of the old Victorian house, my hand gripping the door frame so hard my knuckles turned white. Through the partially open door to the master bedroom, I could hear my wife Sarah speaking in rapid Italian to our realtor, Mrs. Romano. Sarah had no idea I understood every single word she was saying. "Mi serve una stanza nascosta," Sarah said, her voice barely above a whisper. "Una camera segreta nel seminterrato. Deve essere completamente isolata. Nessuno può sapere che esiste." I need a hidden room, a secret room in the basement. It must be completely soundproof. No one can know it exists. My heart hammered against my ribs. Mrs. Romano responded in Italian, asking why she needed such a space. Sarah's answer made my blood run cold. "C'è qualcuno che devo nascondere, qualcuno del mio passato. Non posso spiegare, ma è una questione di vita o di morte. There's someone I need to hide, someone from my past. I can't explain, but it's a matter of life and death." Before we continue, please tell us where you're watching from, so we know how far our stories reach, and subscribe to the channel to help us grow. Let me take you back to where this all started, 3 months earlier. My name is Mike Patterson, and I'm 42 years old. I work as an accountant at a mid-sized firm in Columbus, Ohio. Nothing fancy, nothing exciting, just a decent job that pays the bills. My wife Sarah and I had been married for 10 wonderful years. She was a kindergarten teacher, the kind who brought home handmade cards from her students and cried at their graduation ceremonies. We had the kind of marriage people envied. Date nights every Friday. Inside jokes. The way she still reached for my hand when we watched movies on the couch. We'd been renting a small apartment downtown, but we were finally ready to buy our first house. Sarah was 38, and we'd been talking about starting a family. She wanted a yard for kids to play in, a big kitchen where we could bake cookies together. I wanted a garage where I could finally restore that old Mustang I'd been dreaming about. The one thing Sarah didn't know about me was that I spoke fluent Italian. My grandmother, Nonna Rosa, had raised me until I was 12, while my parents worked double shifts. She only spoke Italian at home, insisting I learn the language of our ancestors. When she passed away, I sort of stopped using it. I never mentioned it to Sarah because it honestly never came up. It was just this random skill I had, like knowing how to juggle or whistle really loud. Our house hunt started off normal enough. We met Mrs. Romano, a cheerful woman in her 60s, who'd been selling homes in Columbus for 30 years. She had that typical realtor energy, always smiling, always optimistic about every property we saw. The first few houses were nice, but not quite right. Too small. Too far from Sarah's school. Bad neighborhoods. Too expensive. We saw ranch houses and split levels and even a weird geodesic dome house that Sarah actually considered for about 5 minutes before I reminded her we weren't hippies. But I started noticing something strange around the 3rd week of searching. Sarah kept asking about basements. Not just casual questions, but very specific ones. Did the basement have separate entrances? Were the walls thick? Could rooms be added down there? How was the soundproofing? "Honey, why are you so focused on the basement?" I asked one evening after we'd seen a beautiful Cape Cod with hardly any basement space. Sarah had immediately crossed it off her list. She gave me a quick smile that didn't quite reach her eyes. "Oh, you know me. I'm thinking about the future. Maybe a home gym down there, or a music room. I've always wanted to learn piano, and I don't want to disturb the neighbors." It made sense. Sort of. Sarah was always thinking ahead, always planning. But something in her voice felt off. A tiny crack in her usual warmth. I let it go. That was my first mistake. We kept looking. Sarah started meeting with Mrs. Romano during her lunch breaks, just the two of them, to narrow down options before dragging me to viewings after work. She said it was to save time, and I appreciated it. My busy season at work was coming up, and I was already putting in 50-hour weeks. Then one Tuesday evening, Sarah came home with her eyes all bright and excited. "I think I found it," she said, grabbing my hands. "The perfect house. It's a Victorian in German village, 3 bedrooms, 2 bathrooms, and the most amazing backyard you've ever seen. Mrs. Romano is holding it for us until Saturday. We can see it then." German Village was one of the nicest neighborhoods in Columbus. Brick streets, historic homes, beautiful parks. It was also expensive. "Are we sure we can afford it?" I asked. "Mrs. Romano says the owners are motivated. They've already moved out of state for a job. We might be able to negotiate." She kissed my cheek. "Just trust me. You're going to love it." Saturday came, and we drove to the address Sarah had given me. The house was stunning. Red brick, white trim, a wraparound porch with a swing. The kind of house you see in magazines about perfect American families. The kind of house where kids would trick or treat on Halloween, and neighbors would wave from their gardens. Mrs. Romano met us at the front door, all smiles. "Welcome, welcome. You're going to love this place." She wasn't wrong. The inside was even better than the outside. Hardwood floors, original crown molding, a kitchen with enough counter space to bake 100 batches of cookies. Sarah was practically glowing as we walked through, pointing out where she'd put the Christmas tree, which room would be the nursery, how she'd paint the dining room a warm yellow. "And the basement?" Sarah asked as we finished the main floor tour. "Oh yes, let me show you." Mrs. Romano led us to a door off the kitchen. Wooden stairs descended into darkness. She flipped a switch and lights flickered on to reveal a huge, unfinished basement. Concrete floors, exposed beams, cinder block walls. It was dry, though, and surprisingly clean. "It's a blank canvas," Mrs. Romano said. "You could finish it however you like." Sarah walked around slowly, running her hand along the walls. She was measuring something with her eyes, calculating. "These walls," she said. "Are they the original foundation?" "Yes, very solid. Built in 1895. These old houses were made to last." "And no one lives next door on that side?" Sarah pointed to the eastern wall. Mrs. Romano checked her notes. "Correct. That lot is actually a small park, very private." I watched my wife closely. She seemed almost relieved. "But why would that matter?" "Mike, honey, would you mind checking out the garage?" Sarah asked suddenly. "I know you wanted to see if your Mustang would fit." It was a weird request since I could see the garage from the basement window, but I shrugged and headed upstairs. The garage was detached, accessible through the backyard. It was perfect, actually. 2 car spaces, good lighting, even had a workbench already installed. I spent maybe 10 minutes out there, planning where I'd put my tools, how I'd set up the space. Then I headed back toward the house. That's when I heard it. Italian voices from the basement window, which was cracked open for ventilation. Sarah and Mrs. Romano, speaking in rapid Italian. I froze mid-step. "Mi serve una stanza nascosta," Sarah was saying. "Una camera segreta nel seminterrato." I need a hidden room. A secret room in the basement. My wife didn't speak Italian. At least I thought she didn't. In 10 years of marriage, she'd never said a single word in any language besides English. I moved closer to the window, staying out of sight. Mrs. Romano sounded concerned. È una richiesta insolita, signora Patterson. Posso chiedere perché? That's an unusual request, Mrs. Patterson. May I ask why? Sarah's voice dropped even lower. C'è qualcuno che devo nascondere, qualcuno del mio passato. Non posso spiegare, ma è una questione di vita o di morte. Mio marito non può sapere. Non può mai sapere. There's someone I need to hide, someone from my past. I can't explain, but it's a matter of life and death. My husband can't know. He can never know. Mrs. Romano was quiet for a moment. Then, capisco. Conosco un contractor che può fare questo lavoro. Discrezione totale. I understand. I know a contractor who can do this work. Total discretion. Grazie, Sarah whispered. Deve essere completamente isolata, con una porta nascosta, e deve esserci modo di far entrare cibo e altre cose senza che nessuno se ne accorga. Thank you. It must be completely soundproof, with a hidden door, and there must be a way to bring in food and other things without anyone noticing. I couldn't breathe, couldn't think. My sweet, gentle wife, who cried at Hallmark commercials and brought home injured birds to nurse back to health, was planning to hide someone in our basement. Someone from her past. Someone she needed to keep secret from me. A matter of life and death, she'd said. I heard footsteps on the basement stairs. They were coming up. I quickly walked back toward the garage, pretending I'd just finished looking around. By the time I reached the back door, Sarah was there, smiling at me like nothing had happened. So, what do you think? Should we make an offer? I looked at my wife, the woman I thought I knew everything about, and realized I didn't know her at all. Yeah, I heard myself say. Let's do it. We bought the house 3 weeks later. The whole time, I pretended everything was normal. I smiled when Sarah talked about paint colors. I nodded when she showed me furniture catalogs. I kissed her goodnight and told her I loved her, all while my mind screamed with questions I couldn't ask. Who was she hiding? An ex-boyfriend? A criminal? Someone dangerous? And why didn't I know my wife spoke Italian? I started digging into Sarah's past, carefully, quietly. She'd always been private about her childhood. I knew her father had died when she was young, and her mother had disappeared when she was a teenager. She'd grown up in foster care after that. She never talked about it much, and I'd never pushed. Everyone has painful memories they don't want to revisit. Now I wondered what else she hadn't told me. I created a fake social media account and searched for anyone connected to Sarah's maiden name, Sarah Morrison. I found some distant cousins she'd never mentioned, a few old classmates from her high school in Cleveland. I sent careful messages, pretending to be planning a reunion, asking if anyone remembered her. Most people didn't respond. One woman, Kelly, wrote back. Sarah Morrison? Yeah, I remember her. Quiet girl. Her stepdad was super strict, wouldn't let her do anything. Then she just disappeared senior year. Heard she went into foster care. Never knew why. Stepdad. Sarah had never mentioned a stepfather. The moving day came on a sunny Saturday in October. Our friends helped us carry boxes into the beautiful Victorian house. Sarah was glowing with happiness, directing traffic, ordering pizza for everyone. I watched her laugh with our friends, saw her hug our neighbor who brought over cookies as a welcome gift. She seemed genuinely happy. But every time she looked at the basement door, something flickered across her face. Fear? Anticipation? I couldn't tell. The Monday after we moved in, a construction crew showed up. The contractor was a quiet man named Vincent, who barely spoke English. He and Sarah talked in rapid Italian in the basement while I was supposedly at work. But I'd taken the day off without telling her. I sat in my car down the block, watching through binoculars as they carried materials into the house through the basement's exterior entrance. Soundproofing panels, heavy-duty locks, a steel door. What kind of room needed a steel door? Over the next 2 weeks, I fell into a routine of deception. I'd leave for work at my normal time, then double back and watch the house. The construction was happening fast. Too fast. Vincent had a whole crew working, and they clearly knew to keep quiet about it. I started having nightmares. In them, Sarah would lead me down to the basement, smiling, and lock me in that hidden room. I'd wake up sweating, and she'd be there next to me, sleeping peacefully, her hand resting on my chest. During the day, she was the same Sarah I'd always known. She made my coffee the way I liked it. She told me funny stories about her kindergartners. She kissed me goodbye every morning and asked about my day every evening. If I didn't know about the secret in our basement, I'd think we had a perfect marriage. But we didn't. We had a lie built on 10 years of trust. 3 weeks after we moved in, the construction finished. Sarah told me the basement was all set up with new storage areas and a better laundry room. She showed me around, and it looked normal. Clean concrete floors, neat shelving units, the washer and dryer in a corner. Everything ordinary. Except I knew there was a hidden room somewhere behind those walls. That night, I made a decision. I needed to know what was happening in my own house. The next day, I went to a specialty electronics store on the other side of town, where no one would recognize me. I bought 3 tiny wireless cameras with night vision and motion detection, the kind that could hide in smoke detectors or air vents. "Setting up home security?" the clerk asked. "Something like that," I said. I waited until Sarah had a parent-teacher conference that would keep her at school until 7 o'clock. Then I went down to the basement with a ladder and my new cameras. It took me 20 minutes of tapping walls and listening for hollow sounds before I found it. Behind a section of shelving that looked permanently attached to the wall, there was a seam. The whole unit swung out on hidden hinges. Behind it was a steel door with an electronic keypad lock. My hands shook as I installed the first camera in the ceiling tile above the door, angled to capture anyone entering or leaving. The second camera went inside an air vent on the eastern wall where I could see the whole basement. The third one I saved, thinking I might need it later. I was just finishing when I heard Sarah's car in the driveway. I shoved the ladder back in the corner, made sure the shelving unit was exactly as I'd found it, and ran upstairs. By the time she came through the front door, I was sitting on the couch with my laptop, looking at spreadsheets. "Hey, honey," she called out. "How was your day?" Same old, I lied. "How was the conference?" That night, I couldn't sleep. I lay next to Sarah, listening to her breathe, wondering who she really was. Around 2 in the morning, she got up. I kept my eyes closed, pretending to sleep. I heard her footsteps on the stairs, heard the basement door open and close. I grabbed my phone and opened the camera app I'd installed. The feed came through perfectly. I watched Sarah move through the basement to the hidden door. She punched in a code on the keypad. 4579. The door swung open. Sarah disappeared inside for a moment. When she came back out, she was carrying a tray. Empty dishes. A glass. She locked the door behind her and came back upstairs. Someone was living in that room. Right now. Under our house. I started watching the cameras obsessively. I'd check them during bathroom breaks at work. I'd watch them on my phone during lunch. Sarah went down to that room 3 times a day. Morning, afternoon, and late at night. She'd bring food, clean clothes, supplies. She'd stay for maybe 5 or 10 minutes, then leave. I never saw who was inside. The camera couldn't see through the door. This went on for a week. I was losing my mind with curiosity and fear. I barely ate. I couldn't focus at work. My boss asked if I was feeling okay. I told him I had a cold coming on. Then one Friday evening, everything changed. Sarah came home from work looking exhausted. "I have a migraine," she told me. "I'm going to take some medicine and lie down. Can you order dinner?" "Of course. You need anything?" "Just some quiet and darkness." She kissed my cheek and went upstairs. 20 minutes later, I heard her snoring softly. The migraine medicine always knocked her out for hours. This was my chance. I grabbed my phone and went down to the basement. My heart was pounding so hard I thought it might burst. I stood in front of the hidden door and pulled up the camera footage from the last week. I watched Sarah punch in the code over and over until I had it memorized. 4579. I reached for the keypad. My finger hovered over the numbers. What if someone dangerous was in there? What if opening this door destroyed my marriage? What if I wasn't ready for the truth? But I had to know. I punched in the code. 4579. The lock clicked. The door swung open a few inches. I pushed it wider and stepped inside. The room was small, maybe 10 feet by 10 feet. There was a cot, a small table, a lamp. Shelves with books and food. A bucket in the corner that I didn't want to think about. And sitting on the cot, staring at me with furious eyes, was a man. He was maybe 70 years old, thin and wiry, with grey hair and a face that looked mean even in surprise. He stood up fast, faster than I expected for his age. "Who the hell are you?" he growled. "I'm Sarah's husband. Who the hell are you?" The man's expression changed. A slow, ugly smile spread across his face. "Sarah's husband? Well, well. I'm Frank Morrison, Sarah's stepfather. Didn't she tell you about me?" Before I could answer, before I could process what he'd just said, I heard a sound that made my blood freeze. A scream from upstairs. Sarah's scream. I ran. I forgot about Frank, forgot about everything except that sound. I took the stairs 3 at a time and burst into our bedroom. Sarah was standing by the window, clutching her phone, her face white with terror. When she saw me, she started crying. "Mike, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. He texted me. He knows. He knows you're home. He knows you found him." "What? Who texted you?" She held out her phone with shaking hands. The message was short. "Tell your husband to come back downstairs now, or I show him the videos." I stared at her. "Sarah, what videos? What is happening?" "Please," she whispered. "Please just go back down there. Do what he says. I'll explain everything, I promise. Just please don't let him send those videos to anyone." I went back downstairs in a daze. The hidden door was still open. Frank was standing there now, leaning against the doorframe, holding an old smartphone. He looked me up and down with contempt. "Sarah always was a stupid girl," he said. "Thought she could hide me down here and keep her perfect little life. Thought she could control me." He laughed, a sound like gravel scraping concrete. But I've got insurance. Videos of her, from when she was young. Videos her new husband wouldn't want to see. Videos that would destroy her sweet teacher reputation. Rage hit me like a lightning bolt. You're blackmailing her. I'm surviving, Frank said. After that ungrateful brat ran away and left me with nothing, after her mother abandoned us both, I ended up on the streets. 3 years I spent homeless. Then I found Sarah again, working at that elementary school, living her nice life. And I told her how it was going to be. She'd take care of me, keep me hidden, or everyone would see what kind of girl she really was. What kind of sick, I didn't get to finish. From upstairs, I heard Sarah's footsteps. She appeared at the top of the basement stairs, tears streaming down her face. "Mike, I'm sorry," she said. "I didn't know what else to do. He found me 6 months ago. He said he'd destroy my career, destroy everything if I didn't help him. The hidden room was the only way I could think of to keep him hidden and keep you safe from all of this." Frank made a disgusting sound. "Keep him safe? You mean keep him ignorant? You should have just told him the truth, Sarah, that you're damaged goods, that your stepfather knows exactly what you—" "Shut up!" Sarah screamed. "Shut up! You don't get to talk about that! You don't get to—" Frank moved fast. He crossed the room and grabbed Sarah's arm, twisting it behind her back. She cried out in pain. "You don't tell me to shut up, girl. I raised you. I fed you. I took care of you after your worthless mother ran off. And this is how you repay me? By hiding me in a basement like an animal." I started toward them, but Frank pulled something from his pocket. A knife. Small but sharp. He pressed it against Sarah's side. "Stay right there. Mike, you and me, we're going to have a talk about new arrangements. This setup isn't working for me anymore. I think I need a real room. Maybe the guest bedroom. And I think my allowance needs to go up." Sarah was shaking, tears running down her face. And that's when I saw it. The way she flinched when Frank moved. The way she tried to make herself smaller. The absolute terror in her eyes. This wasn't the first time he'd hurt her. This was a pattern that went back years. My wife. My sweet, kind, beautiful wife had been living with this monster's threats for months, maybe longer. She'd been protecting me from this nightmare while suffering alone. Frank pressed the knife a little harder. Sarah whimpered, and I knew exactly what I had to do. But it would have to wait, because right now, I had to keep Sarah alive. I had to play along until I could find a way to end this. "Okay," I said, raising my hands. "Okay, Frank, let's talk. Just let her go. We can work this out." Frank smiled that ugly smile again. "That's what I like to hear. See, Sarah, your husband's a reasonable man." He shoved Sarah toward me. She stumbled, and I caught her, holding her tight. She was trembling like a leaf in a storm. "We'll talk tomorrow," Frank said. "I'm tired. Been a long day. Sarah, bring my dinner, and make it something good. I'm sick of sandwiches." He went back into his room and closed the door. The lock clicked. I held Sarah as she sobbed into my chest, and I made a promise to myself right then and there. Frank Morrison was going to pay for every single thing he'd done to her. But first, I needed to understand the full scope of what I was dealing with. I had cameras, I had evidence, I had time, and I had rage enough to fuel whatever came next. That night, I held Sarah in our bed while she told me everything. Her real childhood. the truth she'd buried for 20 years. Her mother had married Frank when Sarah was 8 years old. At first he seemed normal, a little strict, but nothing terrible. Then Sarah's mother got sick with cancer. She fought it for 2 years before passing away when Sarah was 10. That's when Frank changed. He started drinking, Sarah whispered into the darkness. He'd get angry over nothing. Broken dishes, bad grades. If I talked too loud or laughed too much, he'd scream at me for hours, tell me I was worthless, that I'd killed my mother by being such a burden. I held her tighter. When I was 14, he started hitting me. Just slaps at first, then worse. I learned to hide the bruises, wore long sleeves even in summer. I couldn't tell anyone because he said if I did, he'd make sure I ended up in the worst foster home in the system. He knew people, he said. He'd make my life hell. Sarah, honey, when I was 16, I found out the truth. My biological mother didn't die of cancer. She faked her death and ran away. She left me with him. She escaped and left me behind. Sarah's voice broke. Frank told me one night when he was drunk. He thought it was funny. He had helped her disappear because she paid him to keep me. My heart shattered into 1,000,000 pieces. I ran away when I was 17, Sarah continued. Got into foster care like I'd feared, but it was better than living with him. I changed my life, went to college on scholarships, became a teacher, met you, built something good. Then 6 months ago, he found me on Facebook, started messaging me, said he was homeless and it was my fault for abandoning him. Then he sent me one of the videos. What videos, Sarah? She was quiet for a long time. He used to record me when I was a kid, when he was screaming at me, hitting me. He said it was to show me what a bad daughter I was. I didn't know he kept them all these years. When he sent me one, he said he had dozens more. He'd post them online, send them to my school, ruin my career if I didn't help him. I felt sick. Why didn't you tell me? Because I was ashamed. Because I thought you'd think I was broken. Because I didn't want to drag you into my nightmare. She turned to look at me, her eyes red from crying. I thought if I just gave him the hidden room, fed him, kept him quiet, eventually he'd leave or something would change. I was so stupid. You're not stupid. You're a survivor. And this ends now. Over the next 3 days, I became a man on a mission. I kept those cameras running 24/7. I recorded every interaction between Sarah and Frank. I was waiting for him to make a mistake, to do something on camera that would be undeniable evidence. I also contacted a lawyer friend, Tom, someone I trusted completely. I told him everything. He connected me with a detective who specialized in domestic abuse cases. Detective Maria Torres. She listened to my story and agreed to help, but she needed concrete evidence of a crime happening now, not just Sarah's testimony about the past. Get me video of him threatening her or assaulting her, Detective Torres said. Then we can move. Frank was getting bolder. He started coming upstairs when I was at work, making himself at home in our house. Sarah told me he'd sit on our couch, eat our food, go through our things. He was enjoying his power over her. On Thursday afternoon, I told Sarah I had a client meeting in Cleveland and wouldn't be home until late. Instead, I parked my car at a friend's house 3 blocks away and walked back. I let myself in through the back door as quietly as possible and went straight to our bedroom closet where I could watch the camera feeds on my phone. Around 3 o'clock, Frank came upstairs. I watched him on the kitchen camera, making himself a sandwich, turning on our TV. Then Sarah came home from school. I heard her car in the driveway, heard the front door open. On the camera, I saw her freeze when she spotted Frank in the living room. "You're supposed to stay downstairs during the day," she said quietly. "I got bored. This is a nice house, Sarah. Real nice. Shame you wasted it on that loser husband of yours instead of taking care of your family." "You're not my family." I watched Frank's expression darken. He stood up and walked toward Sarah. She backed away. "Not your family? After everything I did for you, I kept a roof over your head. I fed you. I put up with your crying and whining after your mother left. You abused me. You tortured me. You're a monster." Frank's hand shot out and grabbed Sarah's throat. He slammed her against the wall so hard I heard the impact from upstairs. Sarah gasped for air, clawing at his hands. "You don't talk to me like that," Frank snarled. "You don't ever talk to me like that." I was already moving. I burst out of the bedroom and down the stairs. Frank heard me coming and let go of Sarah, but it was too late. I'd seen it. The cameras had seen it, and I was done waiting. I didn't hit him, though every fiber of my being wanted to. Instead, I stepped between him and Sarah. "Get away from my wife," Frank laughed. "Or what? You gonna call the cops? Go ahead. I'll show them the videos. Ruin her life." "You mean these videos?" I held up my phone, showing him the cloud storage folder where I'd backed up everything Sarah had found on his phone the night before. She'd managed to copy his files while he was sleeping. "Already sent them to the police, along with footage of you just assaulting Sarah. It's over, Frank." His face went purple with rage. He lunged at me with that knife he always carried, but I was ready. I'd been training for this moment in my mind for days. I sidestepped, grabbed his wrist, and twisted. The knife clattered to the floor. Frank stumbled backward. Sarah had already called 911. I could hear sirens in the distance. "You think this changes anything?" Frank spat. "You think you're a hero? She's still broken. She's still the scared little girl who—" "Shut up," Sarah said. Her voice was steady now, strong. "You're right that I was scared. I was terrified. But I'm not that little girl anymore. I survived you. I built a life. I found love. And now I'm watching you lose everything." The police arrived within minutes. Detective Torres was with them. They arrested Frank on the spot for assault, unlawful imprisonment, and blackmail. As they led him out in handcuffs, he kept screaming threats, but they sounded hollow now. Empty. Sarah collapsed in my arms as soon as they were gone. "It's really over. It's really over." The trial took 4 months to prepare. Frank's public defender tried to argue that he was an old man who'd been mistreated by his stepdaughter, but the evidence was overwhelming. The videos I'd captured, Sarah's testimony, even the videos Frank had taken of young Sarah showed clear abuse, which his lawyer tried to suppress, but the judge allowed. The hardest day was when Sarah had to testify. She sat in that witness box and told the whole courtroom about her childhood, about the hitting, the screaming, the fear, about how Frank had helped her mother fake her death and disappear, about the blackmail. I sat in the gallery, crying, so proud of her strength. That's when something extraordinary happened. A woman in her 50s stood up in the back of the courtroom. She had Sarah's eyes, Sarah's face, but older, worn by years of guilt. "I'm Linda Morrison," she said, her voice shaking. "I'm Sarah's mother." The courtroom erupted. The judge had to call for order. Sarah just stared at this woman, frozen in shock. During the recess, Linda approached us in the hallway. Sarah wouldn't look at her. I know I have no right to speak to you, Linda said, tears streaming down her face. I know what I did was unforgivable. I was weak and selfish and terrified. Frank was abusing me too, and when I got sick, when the cancer came, something in me just broke. I couldn't fight anymore. So I ran. I paid him to keep quiet about where I'd gone, and I left you behind. It's the worst thing I've ever done. It's haunted me every single day for 24 years. Sarah's hands were shaking. I held them tight. I've been following you online, Linda continued. I saw you became a teacher, saw you got married. I was too ashamed to reach out. Then I saw the news about Frank's arrest, about the trial. I had to come. I had to testify against him too. I have my own evidence of what he did to both of us. You left me with him, Sarah whispered. You knew what he was, and you left me there. I know. I know. And I will never forgive myself. But I'm here now. If you'll let me, I want to help put him away. And then, if you're willing, I want to spend the rest of my life trying to make it up to you. It wasn't an instant healing. It couldn't be. But Linda did testify. Her testimony, combined with Sarah's and all the evidence, led to Frank being sentenced to 15 years in prison for assault, blackmail, unlawful imprisonment, and child abuse charges from Sarah's childhood. After the trial, Sarah and I went to therapy together. She also started meeting with Linda once a week at a coffee shop, supervised sessions at first, just talking, learning who each other had become. It was painful and awkward, and sometimes Sarah would come home crying. But slowly, over months, something shifted. Linda proved she'd changed. She'd been in therapy for years, dealing with her own trauma and guilt. She'd built a quiet life in Cincinnati, working as a nurse, alone, carrying her shame. She didn't make excuses. She just showed up, week after week, proving she wasn't going to run away again. We sold the Victorian house. Too many bad memories. We found a beautiful ranch-style home in a different neighborhood, with a big backyard and no basement. A fresh start. A year after the trial, Sarah told me she was pregnant. We both cried happy tears, and when we told Linda, she cried too. I don't deserve to be in this child's life, Linda said, but if you'd let me, I'd love to be. Sarah took her mother's hand. You're going to be a grandmother. Our daughter is going to know you. But you have to promise me you'll never leave her the way you left me. Never. I promise. Never. Our daughter, Emma Rose, was born on a sunny May morning. She had Sarah's eyes and my smile, and when Linda held her for the first time, sobbing with joy and gratitude, I saw my wife smile. Really smile. A smile without shadows. Linda became the grandmother Emma needed. She babysat, came to birthday parties, taught Emma to bake cookies. She was there, present, making up for lost time. Sarah still has hard days. Sometimes she wakes up from nightmares. Sometimes she gets quiet and distant. But she's healing. We're healing together. One evening, when Emma was 2 years old, we were all in our backyard. Emma was chasing butterflies. Linda was helping Sarah plant flowers in the garden. I was grilling burgers. It was so normal, so peaceful, so far from that nightmare in the basement. "Mike," Sarah called out. "Come here for a second." I walked over. She took my hand and Linda's hand. "I just want to say thank you," Sarah said. "Both of you, for not giving up on me. for helping me find my way back to myself. You saved yourself, I said. I just loved you through it. And I'm just grateful you let me to try to be better, Linda added. Every day with you and Emma is a gift I never thought I'd receive. Emma ran up to us, holding a butterfly she'd caught in her hands. Look what I found! We all gathered around her, this little miracle, this symbol of everything good we'd built from the ashes of trauma and pain. Frank was in prison. Sarah was free. Linda was home. Emma was loved. And I had my wife back, stronger than ever. That's the end of this story. If it touched your heart, please leave a like and subscribe. Have you experienced something similar? Share your story in the comments below.